Hey everyone, Ryan here at eTrailer. Today on our 2024 Honda Odyssey, we're going to be showing you how to install the etrailer.com trailer hitch receiver. Before we do that though, since there are quite a few hitches available for the Honda, why don't we take a minute, check this one out, and make sure it's going to be right for you. Having a hitch back here on a vehicle like the Odyssey makes complete sense. You know, people use these vans to do a ton of different things. So whether if you're trying to pull a trailer around, use different types of accessories, or even a little bit of both, this one's definitely going to work out for you. There are a couple of different types of hitches, so to speak, for the Odyssey. Some that are more visible, like our eTrailer one here, meaning you can see the cross tube run all the way from each side, and then some that are going to be a little more hidden. And with those, the cross tube is up underneath the bumper, and you'll only really be able to see the receiver tube opening. And as far as the more visible ones, I think the eTrailer one looks the best out of all of them. And I say it because really just the finish, it has a matte black carbide type finish. To me, I think it looks a little more modern and just kind of blends in a little bit better, but that's just my opinion. And you know, with the visible ones, there's a couple of benefits depending on how you look at it, right? With these, they're going to be a little bit easier to install on your vehicle if that's something you're worried about, compared to the more hidden type ones, which a lot of them are going to require you to remove the whole entire fascia. These also give us really good capacities and stuff, so they're really versatile trailer hitches and should work out in just about any scenario. As far as the fitment goes, the hitch is going to work with all the different types of submodels, with one exception, and that's the absolute model. So if that's what you got, you know, you'll have to check out some other hitches that maybe fits for it. But aside from that, you know, whether you got the base model or the loaded one or anything in between, the hitch will bolt up and work just fine. And then a lot of people ask too about the hands-free liftgate assist feature, if that's still going to work once you put a trailer hitch back here. And the answer is yes, it will still work. Our model today don't come equipped with it, so I can't show you. But I've done quite a few of these in the past on other Odysseys, this exact hitch that do have that feature, and it still works. You know, it might take you a little practice to kind of find that sweet spot, but generally speaking, you know, as long as you kick your foot to either side of the receiver tube opening, it'll pick up that motion and open up the rear hatch. The hitch is going to have a 2" by 2" receiver tube opening. It's extremely common, so a lot of stuff will work with it. And it is going to use the standard 5/8 pin and clip. One doesn't come with the hitch. If you need one, you can get it here at eTrailer. A lot of times too, if you end up buying a new accessory, we'll come with one. So something to look out for there. And as far as the safety chain openings go, they're a plate style. And although the actual openings aren't huge by any means, they should be big enough to allow you to use just about any size hook that your trailer might have on it. When it comes to the weight capacities, we're going to have a 525-pound maximum gross tongue weight rating. That'll be the amount of weight pushing down on the hitch. And with that number, you should be able to use just about any size bike rack or cargo carrier. Give you an example there. And for the maximum gross trailer weight rating, that's going to be 3,500 pounds, or the amount of weight pulling on the hitch. That will be the weight of your trailer, plus anything that you might have in or on it. This can be used with the weight distribution system, which is a separate component. What happens when you use that, it's going to keep your trailer and your Honda level whenever you're going down the road. It's pretty popular on campers, enclosed trailers, things of that nature. If that's what you're doing, might be worth checking that out. But when you use weight distribution, tongue weight does remain the same at 525. However, the gross trailer weight rating will be increased to 5,000 pounds. Now, with all that said, I do always like to recommend, never a bad idea just to grab your Honda's owner's manual. That way you can check in there and make sure that your Odyssey can handle that amount of weight safely. Let's grab a couple measurements now, and these will help us figure out what type of accessories will work best. If you go from the ground to the top inside edge of our receiver tube opening, taking into account the lift that we're parked on here, that's going to be about 14 inches. So if you plan on pulling a trailer, you can use a ball mount that has a rise in the shank. I'd say probably that 2" range, work well in most scenarios. And you know, if you're getting a new accessory, if it were me, I would try to find one that has a rise too, just to buy a little more ground clearance. But if you already have a straight shank accessory or something, you'll be just fine. That is something too I want to mention. When it comes to ground clearance, it seems like a lot of people ask about that, which is understandable because it's, it's not super high off the ground. Compared to some of the more less visible type hitches, the ones that are, tucked up behind the bumper, with those you do seem to get another inch or two of ground clearance, generally speaking. So if that's something you're really concerned with, you can always look into that. And as far as our bumper clearance, we'll go from the center of the hitch pin hole to the edge of our bumper. That's going to be right at about 3 inches, which is really good, so you shouldn't run into too many issues here, but if need be, you can use that to help figure out exactly if any of those folding type accessories can be stored upright without hitting the back of your Honda. Other than that, can't really ask too much more out of the hitch, out of the visible ones. This would be the one I'd go with. Like I said, I think it looks the best and good general purpose all-around trailer hitch. As far as the installation is concerned, it's really not too bad. A little panel you drop down over here, loosen up your exhaust, one little hanger on the other side, and more or less the hitch almost just bolts right up into the frame rail, so it's really not too bad. A lot of you shouldn't really struggle with this. The hardest part is probably just getting the hitch up. It is quite heavy and just kind of odd trying to work it into position. So if you have someone that can help you with that part, definitely makes it easier. With that said, if this is something you don't want to mess with or have the time or place to work on it, definitely understand that. You can always use our dealer locator network, and that can help you find a shop in your neighborhood that can set this up for you. But if you're doing it yourself, hang around, we'll go ahead and get started on it now. To begin our installation, we're going to be underneath the back of our Odyssey, and over on the driver's side, we're going to have this underbody panel that we can remove. Start with these push pin type fasteners. Looks like we have 4 on the edge here. With these, you can just take a flathead screwdriver, pry down on the head of them, and pull the whole base out. Now you can switch out to a 10mm socket, and right up in this area, you'll have a bolt. We need to pull that out. This is the last fastener holding our underbody panel on, just a Phillips head screw. Go ahead and get that pulled out. Now we're able to grab our underbody panel, just work that out of position. We are going to need to let our exhaust come down just a little bit to give us some extra room to work. But prior to doing that, I like to take a strap and just run it from side to side. That way the exhaust will have a little extra support. There's a rubber exhaust hanger right here, and what you can do, spray soapy water on them or some sort of lubricant, and then I'll usually just kind of grab the exhaust system and work it back and forth, try to loosen it up, and it almost just popped off the hanger right there from doing that. But if you need to, you can get a pry bar or big screwdriver or something and work one end of that hanger off the metal post. Right here above the tailpipe, there's this little plastic deflector. We're going to have to pull that off as well. So just like the other side with the panel, got a couple of push pins. We'll pry them out. And we can get this little piece removed from our vehicle. We'll go over our attachment points now, which will be on the bottom of our frame rails. And from this point on, whatever we do to one side of our vehicle, we'll also do to the other side because it'll be set up the same way. So we're going to have a total of 3 attachment points. This weld nut, and then this open hole here. For the weld nuts, I do recommend cleaning them out. You can spray some penetrating oil or something in there and just run a brush through there to clean out any potential debris that might be inside. And then what I recommend doing is taking the hardware combination for those 2 attachment points. So you'll have this bolt and a conical tooth washer. And whenever you go to install these, make sure the teeth on the washer are going to face up towards the hitch. What I suggest taking the bolt and just making sure it threads in easy, you know. If it doesn't, if these are really rusty or something, say for example, and you can't really get them clean with just a regular brush, you can always use what's called the tap. This is an M12 by 1.25, and with these, you know, when you thread it in there, it more or less recuts the threads and make them like brand new again. So something I just thought I'd mention if it's something you run into. And then as far as this opening, what you can do, you can take a carriage bolt and a spacer block, put them on like that, and then there's a fish wire that they give you. And the bolt will thread onto the coiled end. And we can take the hardware one at a time, put the bolt up into the frame, and then the spacer block, drop it back down like that. We can get our hitch up into position now, and this thing's pretty big, so if you can have someone give you a hand, it'll definitely make it more manageable. You want to take your pull wire, the end of it, you know, and put that through the hole in the hitch there. And then we'll raise it up into position. Get our holes lined up. And I'm going to get both of these bolts started. Hand tight here. That way we won't have to try to hold things up while we get the other hardware on our carriage bolt there. And so once it's like that, you can unthread your fish wire. You can take this flange nut, and what I like to do is just put a little side pressure on that bolt so it don't want to move around on you. That makes it a little easier to get the flange nut started. Once all your hardware is in place and hand tight, you can center up the hitch. You know, you are able to slide it from side to side just a little bit. So I got it where I want it, and we can tighten the bolts down. For the actual bolts here, you can use a 19mm socket. And then for the nut on the carriage bolt, you can switch sockets out to an 11/16 and snug that one down. We're going to make sure and come back with a torque wrench now and tighten down all that hardware to the amount specified in the instructions. What I've done, that little deflector that we removed, I reinstalled that opposite way. You know, you just take the push pins, push them right back into place. We can rehang the exhaust now. So I sprayed the rubber hanger down. Usually you can just pop that on by hand. And with that sorted over there, we'll get our strap out of the way. As far as the underbody panel goes over on the driver's side, you can leave it removed if you want. My thought though, it looks like the amount of material that you'd have to trim from this to get it back up into position, it's really a no-brainer for me. And I know a lot of you out there would rather have it reinstalled on your vehicle like I would. So that's exactly what we're going to do. Get this cut, and that way we can put it back into position. To trim this, I like to use a multi-tool like this, but it's pretty thin plastic. You could use a pair of snips or Dremel tool or whatever you got. But either way, we'll go ahead and get this cut out here. Then if you want to, you can always come back with a file or some sandpaper or something and kind of clean up these rough edges. Got the underbody panel resecured, fit just fine. In case you're wondering too, if you want to do this, the size of the material I cut out is about 1 inch this way, and I did about 10 inches this way. So it's always something you can work off of there, but with all that done, that'll finish up our look at and our installation of the etrailer.com trailer hitch receiver on our 2024 Honda Odyssey.